skip to the good part. That's not how you're supposed to tell stories.
Is that what we should do then? Skip to the good part.
No. If you clicked onto this video, I'm sure you know what a FNAF Analog horror series is. It's an interpretation of the Five Nights at Freddy's story in a format of analog media that focuses on the horror aspects of the series. But let's be honest, this format has gotten stale a long time ago. But one series has caught my eye in the modern day, by the name of Urban Finds at Freddy's.
What? What's the matter? Come on, this is pretty interesting, right?
Listen, I'm a big Five Nights at Freddy's fan. Where'd you think the name of Foxxie came from? Out of nowhere? No, there's a reason behind my brain damage. So I've seen a lot of FNAF Analog horror series, some comedic and others made by not so good people, but none of them has really hit a high in my opinion. But Urban Finds at Freddy's, it's gotten really close. Urban Finds is an analog horror series made by Bloodlet Effects. The series is a collection of camcorder recordings shared through the guise of urban exploration YouTube videos. This series is one of Bloodlet's most successful series on the channel, with the series gaining over 500,000 views as of writing this video. Maybe this series wasn't underrated. And I want to talk about it today, and also talk a little bit about Bloodlet. Also, this video isn't going to be a recap of the series like many other analog horror reviews. I'd much rather you go watch the original series and support the creators. This series is less than 20 minutes long, and I would recommend you watching it before this video. Being a FNAF fan on the internet, I was exposed to Patient Zero, the Squimpus tapes. Now, for a moment, I'm going to separate the work from the pedophile real quick, but the Squimpus tapes were good when they first released. Now it's kind of just like, It was a new form of telling the FNAF story that wasn't really done before. It seems that these tapes were based on actual animatronic utility tapes, with the first tape drawing big inspirations from the Project Unification tapes put out by Showbiz, which was horrifying in their own part. But because of these tapes, and more importantly, the view count, so many people were inspired to make their own VHS series. And a big explosion of Five Nights at Freddy's VHS content flooded the internet. And when this abundance of content, cliches started to get made. You had the repair tapes, the paranormal investigation tapes, you even had abandoned exploration tapes, and the list just goes on from there. I don't want to push anyone down during this time, saying that their series wasn't good. I mean, a lot of them were cool, and some were even funny. Do I need to show William Afton using Foxxie as a weapon again? It's just that the genre just became oversaturated. With each new tapes just blurring into the next one, it literally was the Buzz Lightyear reaction gif. Nothing would really stand out anymore, and that's why I think Urban Finds at Freddy's succeeded. It stood out with a different approach to pretty much, I would say, everything. I think one thing that this series does well is its presentation. The setting is really good, being an urban exploration channel. I used to watch a lot of these, where people would go to abandoned buildings, hospitals, Chuck E. Cheese, or even theme parks, and share their findings online. And I think the Windows Movie Maker blue background with typing the exposition is pretty good. And it also made me realize that this is technically not a FNAF VHS series, because there's not any VHSs. This is instead a bunch of camcorder footage in a media player being shown. So this is actually a bit closer to digital horror, akin to Fazbear Toddler Fun. And it's not just exploration videos in the lineup. There's also animatronic show recordings. You probably have seen these before, where parents would record the Chuck E. Cheese or Rockafire Explosion shows for their kids' birthday parties. They're just innocent recordings of the bands and animatronics performing, no horror in sight. What I like about the ones in this series is that they're pretty accurate, with a whole bunch of background noise, like babies crying, people talking to the cameraman, random earthquakes that happen when Spring Bonnie appears.
Kids better tell me you see a little yellow bunny bouncing around.
Why is this happening? I also like the animatronic malfunctions because they're realistic. Animatronics just don't twitch around like crazy or say random stuff for some reason.
Hey there, sugar. Why not give old Fox your kiss?
No. They instead just break and just slump over. It will always be funny to me watching Baby fall over. I think the inspirations make this version of Freddy's more grounded and real. The Chuck E. Cheese aesthetics work. The first video literally starts out with them in a Chuck E. Cheese. You can tell because I think this slipped through the cracks. I don't think that's supposed to be there. And it's not just the animatronic shows for these tapes. There's also fan-made advertisements and kid shows. The series really came out the gate with the different mediums. This claymation segment is an advertisement for Freddy's Bread, which I believe is a clear homage to the old Wilkins Coffees commercials. Editor's note, I just figured out that these are more based off Kearns and Clyson bread commercials, but they're basically just like Wilkins Coffee's commercials. These were commercials that were made by Wilkins Coffee that had Jim Henson make puppets to advertise the coffee. These commercials were oddly dark with a reoccurring theme of, you know, death and severe injury. I think this works perfectly with the series like this, and it's a great place to draw inspiration from. The Nook segment I thought was based off a kids program by the name of The Nook, but to be honest, I think that's a coincidence. The Fredbear and Friends After Dark segment is well animated. Bloodlet's really good at recreating that Pingu and the Rankin and Bass style pretty well in Blender. This segment kind of exploded on the internet for a little bit, with it having this weird sense of nostalgia and horror with it, but also it's pretty quotable too. I believe another thing that is done really well is the models. They're animated so well and realistically, and I believe that the animatronics are inspired by many other different things, but I think the number one inspiration is the Country Bear Jamboree. I mean, Fredbear looks a lot like Wendell from the Country Bears, and Baby's swing is in reference to Teddy Barra. I would also like to take a moment to celebrate the voice actors. Most of the voices are done by Bloodlet himself. He has pretty good range, and some of the voices do have a filter applied to them that makes them sound different from his voice. So if there's someone that's not credited in these videos, probably Bloodlet himself. Foxxie's voice is done by Wizardry VA, while Baby and Balloon Boy's voice is done by Olivia Magnanation. I think that's how you say it. For a second there, I thought he says, "I don't miss my mommy, that whiny bitch," which I find hilarious because it feels like the Mr. Creepypasta videos where the animatronics would just swear, and it's just so funny.
Hey, fuck you.
Olivia doesn't only voice act in this, she also does the animation segment for the Freddy's advertisement. The animation's really good, and it does remind me of the old Chuck E. Cheese commercials. I'm sorry, this image just sort of takes me out of it. That's just the FNAF in real life building, just uncensored. The horror in this series isn't really out of jump scares, which there is some good ones in this. I think it's more out of the atmosphere and the build-up. I like to call it like a sort of creepy nostalgia. It preys on people's fond memories of these childhood concepts like Chuck E. Cheese, the Disney parks, and old stop-motion animation. For example, I think the usage of the wind sound effect in this scene brings me back to when anything dangerous would happen in a Rankin Bass movie, like a blizzard or the Yeti appearing. It would play this kind of loud wind-blowing sound effect, and it kind of freaked me out as a kid. Side note, I think a Rankin Bass inspired horror project would actually go pretty hard. Someone please make that. That would be cool. Bloodlight does a really good job at making stuff feel a bit off or uncanny, like this weird giant innard caterpillar. What was he smoking when he designed this? Now, some of you are probably wondering, what's the lore of this series? What's the story? And in my opinion, I don't think this series has lore, or at least not yet. There might be some micro bits and pieces of it, but personally, I don't think a story is really needed for this series to be good. Don't get me wrong, I love stories, who doesn't? But I think it's kind of a breath of fresh air to see one of these analog series not bombard us with information. Sometimes you just want to flip on the television and see Big Fat Red Bear run at the camera. What is this? Is this a performer? An animatronic? I don't think this is even the same Fredbear design that we see later in the series. This isn't even a lore question. I'm just confused. What I'm trying to say is that this series is doing good even without a lore-heavy story. I think more people should just hop into making that cool project they've been wanting to do, instead of worrying about the writing for it. You don't have to write the next Walton Files. Just make that cool project that you've been wanting to do and just improve upon it. I mean, that's what happened with Urban Finds creator Bloodlet. One thing that I want to cover that I don't see a lot of people talk about is the individuals who actually make these videos and their previous works, which is a shame because when I see something cool, I want to peer into the minds of these creatives to appreciate the art even more. So I did a little research on series creator Bloodlet FX, also known as Tanner Young. Tanner joined YouTube January 8th, 2019. He started out making videos on his journey learning Blender and animating in it. What's funny about this is that this is the same guy that made this, and that's just frying me right now. These early era animations remind me a lot of Hydraulic Beanbag. You know, the really weird but good type of weird. After most of these tests, Tanner would decide to get his feet wet and jump into the pool known as Analog Horror with the series Corporate Discipline. The first couple of episodes, in my opinion, they don't really stand out, pretty basic Analog Horror. But for the last couple of episodes, it got really good.
How long is this for? Oh, something's appearing in the corner. Oh, no, that's freaky. Oh, no. That one's good.
I really hope this series continues. You can really tell that Tanner got way better at making horror. And you can really see the passion that he puts into his work, especially with his short film titled The Way I'm Built. It's really good and I think it's underrated. It deserves way more than just 1,000 views. So if you like the Urban Finds series, please go support Tanner and his other projects. He really deserves the love. And for any other creator who's watching this video right now, just go ahead and start making stuff. Because if you start creating, you can make some wonderful projects. And heck, it might get really popular and inspire more people to take the plunge into creating. You get a lot better the more you do. What a weird place to end a video about Five Nights at Freddy's.